In today's video, we're going to be making a single web page about the Game of Thrones. As it is one of your first web pages that you will be creating, we're going to keep this fairly simple. As you can see, we've got a nice big header that runs along the top of the page with some nice big text. Coming in below that, we've got 3 paragraphs of information about the TV series. We've also got a hyperlink thrown in for good measure that takes you off to the official website for Game of Thrones. And a little bit lower, we've got an image of the cast members, and we've also got a footer, which is just a copyright statement. Okay, so fairly simple. To get started, you'll need to go into your account and make yourself a Game of Thrones folder. Inside of that Game of Thrones folder, you'll have another folder called Images. And inside of these should have the cast members image. Okay, you can get all these from Curriculum Drive. You'll also need this information text file, and basically when you open that up, you'll see that's the information included in the web page. I've written it up for you, so all you have to do is copy and paste it in. So fairly simple. To get started on the programming side of things, you're going to need to open up brackets and make yourself a new file. Before you start typing, I just want you to go to File and Save As, and you need to go into the folder you just created. So look for that Game of Thrones folder and save it in there. Okay, I'm just going to call it Game of Thrones. I'm going to make it all one word, and I'm going to put .html on the end. You need to put .html on the end of your websites so the computer recognizes this file as an actual web page. So when you open it up, it will open up in a web browser, and you can preview how your web page is going to look. So once you've got that saved, you're ready to go with your programming. So the first thing we need to do in a HTML document is put in a tag known as a doc type tag. So we write the word doc type in capital letters and then put HTML in small letters. We've also got an exclamation mark before we start as well. I know it's a funny piece of coding, but basically that's saying the document type we're about to create is a web page or a HTML file. Okay, coming in below that on line number 2, we get into the coding that makes our web page up. So the next tag we add in is our HTML tag. Okay, you'll notice that I've pushed this second tag down a bit lower. In HTML, tags generally come in pairs. You'll have an opening tag and a closing tag. And in between those tags is where you put some content. Okay, so I'm going to make my website inside of these HTML tags. Alright, so I'm going to go down to line 3 now, and you'll see that my mouse cursor is indented. Usually when you're putting stuff inside tags, you'll indent it across to make it a little bit easier to read, and that'll make more sense as you go on throughout the course. You'll see that indenting code will make things a lot easier to read. Alright, so the second part that we put into our coding is the head section. Okay, and again I'm going to push the closing tag down a few lines. Basically, HTML documents are made up of 2 parts. We've got the head section and then the body section that comes after it. The head section, whatever we include in here, doesn't really get displayed in the web browser. It's just some basic information about our page. Coming in second, we've got the body section, which comes after the head section, and that's the stuff that gets displayed in our web browser. But we'll have a look at that in just a moment. What we're looking at now is the head section. So inside the head tags, we're going to press enter and go down onto another indented line, and we're going to put in some title tags. What we're going to do is give our web page a title. Okay, and the title of it is going to be Game of Thrones. Alright, so I'll just delete that empty space. So we've got our opening head tag. Down on the next line we've got a title tag that opens up. We write the name of our web page and then close that title off. Okay, remember to close them off, you just have to do the same tag with a / before the word. Okay, that's all we're going to put in our head section for now, so you can close your head section off. We will come back to this section a bit later and add some more to it. If you were to save that now by pressing Ctrl S for the shortcut and opening up this file from your account, or if this little lightning bolt works here, press on that. It's going to give you a live preview of your web page. Okay, this is what our web page looks like at the moment. We've got nothing there, except if you look up the top, we have a title. So the tab name in our web browser is called Game of Thrones. And that piece of code that we put in just a moment ago with the title tags around it is what goes in that name. So if I was to write this is a title instead and save it, you'll see that the tab changes now at the top here to this is a title. Okay, So that's how you change the name of the tab. We just want to call it Game of Thrones though. Alright. So to get stuff to appear in our web browser, what we need to do is open up a body section. So we're going to open up the body tags. Okay, I've pushed the closing tag down a bit lower again, like usual. Now inside the body tags, we're going to start with a header. That's that big strip that runs across the top of the page. Okay, so we've done up some header tags, and inside the header tag we're going to write Game of Thrones. We're going to save that and have a look at our preview box. And you can see now we've got our first piece of text appearing in the web browser. To make that stand out a little bit more and make it a bit bigger, what we're going to do is make it into a heading. And the way we do that is just put the H1 tags around Game of Thrones. So I will need to cut out that closing tag by pressing Ctrl X and just moving it to the end of the line, pressing Ctrl V. So now all the text inside these H1 tags is going to become a header, or a heading, sorry. And it's going to be nice and big. Alright, if you think that's too big, what you can do is change the number next to the H1 here. So instead of having H1, you might want H3. So change both the tags to say H3 instead. If you save that and have a look, you'll see it's still a heading, it's just a bit smaller. You can go from H1 all the way through to H6, okay, with 1 being the biggest and H6 being the smallest type of headers. But I'm going to stick with H1 for now. Okay, it's nice and big and it stands out, so that's what I'm after. Alright, so that's our header section all finished. Okay, so make sure you got your closing tag in there. What we're going to put in now is the main information that goes into our body section, or the main information that appears on the web page. What we do is we put that inside an article tag. Generally the important information, or the stuff that takes up a majority of the web page, will go inside an article tag. Alright, so inside the article, first of all, we're going to make a new paragraph. And we do that by writing in the letter P inside pointy brackets. That just stands for a new paragraph. And inside this first paragraph, I'm going to go back to this information document and copy the first paragraph and simply paste it in between those P tags. Okay, so Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Okay, you can see the two P tags now. That creates a paragraph. If I save that up and have a look, there it is there. We've got a nice big H1 heading, and below that we've got a new paragraph with some information. Now I'm going to do that 2 more times to get these other paragraphs in, so I'll put in some more P tags and I'll copy the second paragraph. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And coming in on the next line, got this third paragraph. So put in your P tags first and then paste it in. Alright, I just realised there was one extra paragraph that we need to chuck in, and that's that hyperlink paragraph. So we've got a link here that says click here for more information about the Game of Thrones series. We're going to have to turn that into a hyperlink shortly. But that's all our paragraphs put in. So let's just save that for a moment and have a look at how that's going. There we go. So that's what we've got on our page so far. That's looking pretty good. So back in our code now, what I'd like to do is add a picture in below this text. So what I'm going to do is go beneath the closing article tag. The article's finished now. Okay, that's the main section of our web page done. And what we're going to do is break off into a little section on its own. So we're going to put in a tag called section. Pretty self-explanatory. Now in this section tag, we're simply going to put a picture in. And the way we put a picture in is open up a pointy bracket and write the word IMG, which stands for image. Then put a space and write SRC, which stands for source. So it's basically saying image source, then we write equals, and then in quotation marks we write the link to where we can find this picture. Now if you remember earlier, we had an images folder here, and inside of that we had a picture of the cast members. So that's what we want to put into our web page. So I'm going to go into the images folder and get the GOT or Game of Thrones.jpg picture and put it in. And I'll just close my pointy bracket off. That single line of code there will put a picture into your website. So the image source is in my images folder, and the file name is GOT or GOT or whatever you want to call it, .jpg. When I save that now and go and preview it, you can see I've got this picture in my web page. It's looking good. One other thing I like to do with the images here is put in some more code. Okay, sometimes the image will not load on a user's computer. That could be because of slow internet connections, or they might have disabled pictures to save on mobile data. So what we need to do is put in a couple of words to describe that picture. So when they actually load the web page, a bit of text will come up instead of the picture. So what we do is we put in the alt tag and write alt equals, and in quotation marks, describe your picture. So I'll just write Game of Thrones cast members. Should be a very short and simple description of what the picture is. So that line of code there is just the text that will be displayed if the picture doesn't load correctly on somebody's computer. Alright, so that's our picture done. The last thing I want to stick in is a footer section down the bottom. Okay, so let's put in the footer tag. Inside the footer tag, we're simply going to write copyright 2017 Game of Thrones. That's a little copyright statement. If we were to save that and have a look, see just below the picture we've got our copyright statement. Now that copyright statement probably would look better if we put the copyright symbol in there, you know, the little C inside of a circle. So that usually goes after the word copyright. So put a space after copyright, and to do a special character or a special little symbol like that, you have to use a bit of code that looks like this. We do the ampersand sign first, write the word copy, and then stick in a semicolon. And that little piece of orange code will stick in the copyright symbol. If we go and preview it, there it is right down the bottom, that little C inside a circle. Okay, so that's looking good too. That's almost all of the HTML done. The one last thing I want to put in is a hyperlink. So if you remember this last line of text here back up in our article, it said click here for more information on the Game of Thrones series. What we need to do is turn the words click here into a hyperlink. And the way we do that is we put the mouse cursor before the word click, we open up some pointing brackets and write ahref equals, and in quotation marks we write down the website we want it to go to. Okay, so it's http://. Always put that in at the start of your website links, and it's www.hbo.com/game-of-thrones, and you can close your quotation marks and close your pointing brackets. You'll notice that this little closing A tag appears. That closes off our hyperlink. Okay, what we need to do is cut that out and move it to the other side of the word here. So we've now got the words click here inside of the hyperlink code, and that will link just those two words up. Okay, so let's look through that again. We put in the ahref tag at the start, and then equals, and in quotation marks you put your website you want to take it to, and then close off the quotation marks, and you just need to make sure the words click here go inside those two A tags. When you save it and preview it, you'll see now we've got a hyperlink. We can click on it and it should take us to the Game of Thrones official website. You can see it going now. One thing I would like to do though is make that pop up in a new tab. Rather than clicking on that link and just making the new website appear in this browser, I'd like a new tab to appear up the top there. So the way we do that, we just got to get back inside this ahref tag here. After where we put Game of Thrones in quotation marks, just put a space and write target equals underscore blank in quotation marks. So that little section there, that's basically going to open up that hyperlink in a new blank tab. So save that and we'll test that again. You can see now it opens up in a new tab, and we've still got our original tab over here. Alrighty, so that's the HTML section of this web page done. What we want to do now is style it up and make it look good, because at the moment it's quite ugly. Okay, so let's add a bit of color, and we'll change the fonts around a bit and change the layout of a few items to make this a lot more visually appealing. So the way we do that is we make a new document up. Okay, and we're going to save this document before we start typing anything. It needs to be saved in the same spot as your web page. So go back through your account and find your Game of Thrones folder, and we're going to call this document style.css. Okay, remember we use HTML to make the web page and the basic layout and structure of it, and we use CSS, so another programming language, to style up our page to make it look good. Okay, when you click save, you'll see that you've got two documents down the left hand side here. You've still got your HTML file, and now you've got your style sheet where you can put in the code to make our website look good. Before we start styling up our page, we need to link these two documents together. Okay, and the way we do that, we go back to the head section at the top of the page, and after the title, so press enter after the title, we just need to add in one line of code that says link space rel equals style sheet, and then we put a space and write href equals, and select the style.css document. And basically what that's doing is linking this HTML document up to this second document, the style sheet. Okay, so any styling we do in this sheet will be applied to this HTML document. It's going to make more sense in just a moment when we start styling the page up. So what I want you to do is pop on over to your style sheet, which is empty at the moment. And what we're going to do first of all is style up the body section. Okay, so everything inside these body tags we're going to style up. So there's the first body tag. Everything below it all the way down to the closing body tag is going to be affected. Okay, so that's basically our whole web page. Alright, so back in the style sheet, we write in the word body, and we open up a curly brace. You'll see that the closing curly brace appears automatically. That's fine. Now I've indented a cross in between these curly braces, and what I'm going to do is change my font first of all. So I'm going to write in the word font-family, and I'm going to choose sans serif. I think these fonts look best on a web browser. If you were to save that style sheet up by simply pressing Ctrl S and having a look at your web page now, you'll notice that your font has changed. Okay, that's every single piece of text in the document or in the body section that's changed. Okay, something else we can do is change the size. So we go to font size, and I use 1 EM for my size. I'm still not 100% sure what EM stands for, but basically 1 EM is the perfect or the most normal size for the screen that you're looking at this web page on. So if you're looking on a desktop screen, the computer's going to pick the best size for your screen. Okay, so if I go back and have a look, it didn't really change from before, but that's the perfect size. If I change that to 2 EM, it's going to be double the normal size. And go and have a look at it now, you can see my text has gone double its normal size. So it's absolutely huge, which does look a bit silly. So we'll turn it back to 1 EM for the font size. The next thing I'm going to do is change the line height. And that's basically the line spacing. So it's going to put in a little bit of extra space between each line of text. Okay, and I'm going to set it to 1.5 EM. It's basically saying the same thing as 1.5 line spacing. If you save that and have a look now, you'll see that you've got a little bit of extra room between each line of text. It just makes it a bit easier to read. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Next thing I'm going to do is put in a background color. And the way we do that is just write the word background, and you can type in the name of a color, such as grey. Remember, you've got to spell it the American way. And if we save that and have a look, it's changed our background color. I find that a little bit too dark. It doesn't contrast very well with the black text on top of it, so I might just change that color. I'm going to use a hexadecimal code, so I can do hashtag E3, E3, E3. And if I hover over that, you'll see that that is a very light grey. If you don't like that color, you can right click and choose quick edit, and you can move your little lever around to whatever you want. Okay, but I'm just going to stick with E3, E3, E3. When you save that and have a look, we've got a nice simple grey background. Okay, so that's looking good so far. Outside of the body tag now, we're going to start styling up another section. Okay, the next thing I want to style up, if I just go back to my HTML, is my header section. So that's just that little bit. So everything inside the header tags, which is basically that one line of text that says Game of Thrones, we're going to style that up now. Okay, so back to our style sheet, we write the word header, and inside of the curly brackets, first thing we want to do is change the background color of our header. So change the word, change the background to, I'm going to do another hashtag here and write 292929 and a semicolon at the end. That's basically a very dark grey colour. If you save that and have a look, you can see that's how our header's going to look at the moment. Nothing flash, but we're starting to get a bit of colour in there. just on those little semicolons, make sure you put them at the end of each line of your CSS coding. Just tells the computer that you finished that line of code and it's ready now to move on to the next line. Okay, so you always put a little semicolon at the end of each line of code. Alright, so we couldn't see the text before when we preview that header, so what I'm going to do is change the color of that text. All you need to do is write color, and I'm going to make it white. If I save that up, you can see now our text has come back and it's clearly visible. Something else we're going to do is push that text across to the center of the page. So text align we can change to center. That will just put your text in the middle of the page. And I want to make this black strip a bit bigger, so have a bit of space around it. At the moment it's really hugging that text and it looks really squished in there. So what I'm going to do is add some padding around the outside of that text. I'm going to make 10 pixels worth of padding. Okay, so we should see now a much larger header. It's got 10 pixels of space above it, below it, and plenty of room either side of it. Alright, so that's looking good. It doesn't quite go to the edge of the page though. Okay, you can see that bit of a grey border still around the edges of the page. So to fix that issue, what we need to do is go back to our body section up the top here, and after we put that background in, what I need you to do is just write margin and set it to 0. That just removes that little margin that we had around the page before, and now when we preview it, you'll see that there's no little gaps around the page. Okay, it does mean our text down here is hugging the edge of the page a little bit, so we might have to indent that text a little bit just to move it across and make sure it's not too squished against the edge of the page. Okay, and the way we do that is we simply put in an article tag now. So we're in our CSS sheet again, and we just made up a new article tag. Remember, the article is basically all of the text, so that's all this section. Everything that comes inside those article tags. So inside those article tags, all we're going to do is put in a bit of padding again. So a little bit of extra space around the outside of the article section. 10 pixels of padding would look good. If we go and preview that now, you can see we've got about 10 pixels of padding running down the edge of the page there, which makes it a lot easier to read. Same on each side. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I just noticed this header isn't quite as large as I'd like it to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is really make that stand out next. So after the article, what we're going to do is style up, not the header section anymore, we're going to go further down and just style up the H1 tags. Okay, all we want to do is just change that text. So back in the style sheet, we're just going to write H1 in and open up curly braces. And the first thing I want to do is change the font size. And I'm going to make it 3 times its normal size. So I'm going to write 3EM for the font size. We have a preview of that. You can see it's looking quite large. Don't worry about this blue box that's appeared. That's just this is just our preview box showing me that that's the section I'm working on at the moment. Not only am I going to change the font size, I want it all in capital letters. So what I can do is just write text-transform and choose uppercase. And that puts all my text into capital letters. Okay, so if I save that and preview it, that's how it's looking now. So a much nicer header. Alright. If we just scroll down this picture, I think it would look better if it was in the center of the page. So if I just go back to my HTML for a sec, where did I put that picture in? It's down here in the section tags. So let's style up this section to make it all center aligned. The way we do that is right in the tag section and open up your curly braces. And even though it's a picture, the way we center it is write text align and set it to center. And that basically pushes everything inside the section tags across into the center of the page. So that picture's now in the middle, which is looking good. This footer at the bottom needs a bit of work. Okay, I'd like that in the center as well, and I'd like it a bit smaller and styled up. So what we're going to do next is just style up the footer. Okay, if you remember in the HTML document we had the footer tags. Inside the footer tags we had that copyright statement. So let's style the footer tags next. So we write in the word footer, open up a curly brace. First thing you want to do is change the background color. I actually want it the same as my header. Okay, so its color was this one here, that really dark color, hashtag 292929. After that, I'll change the color to white. That's just the text color. We might push that text across to the center of the page, so text align, we'll put to center. We're going to drop the font size a bit. Okay, instead of doing 1 EM, which it's at now, I might write 0.75 EM, so it drops down to 3/4 of its usual size. And the last thing I'm going to do is change the font style and choose italic. That will just put a bit of a slant on our text. So all these effects here are going to be applied to that bottom section called the footer. Let's have a look. There it is down there now. So we've got the nice black strip, the white text. It's a little bit smaller. It's in italic. It's looking good. Okay. So that is basically our document styled up. One last thing I think I might do. These first few words, Game of Thrones, I'm going to turn into bold text. And the way we do that is go back to our HTML. Okay. The way we make bold text is use a certain tag. So in my article section here, I've found the words Game of Thrones. I'm going to click just before the word game, and I'm going to put in a tag called strong. And I'm going to cut the closing tag out by pressing Ctrl X, and I'm just going to move that after the word Thrones. So now I've got this strong tag that surrounds Game of Thrones, and that's basically going to make it bold. So the word strong will give you bold text. As you can see, the first few words now in my web page are nice and bold. So that's it. There we have it, a working web page. That looks great. Okay, it's all styled up with a bit of CSS there. It's quite simple to make as well. So hopefully you've learned a few new tricks on how to make web pages in this video.